2023. We'll take a 2-minute recess to confer with council on the agenda.
Quite a long time.
Okay, we're back. We had left on to one, planning application, 25 House South Hillside. The applicant had originally applied for a half bath. They came in for a full bath. And last week we were missing two colleagues, and plus the rest of us wanted to think about it a little bit more. The applicant's not here, so we'll still move ahead with it, so he doesn't fall down. We can go ahead and as we've done in the past, we've been consistent in not allowing those extra full bathrooms in basements like that. So I'll start off with a ask trustee Henry. Okay for the agenda to deny the application. Trustee, okay for the agenda? Yeah, deny, yes. Trustee Lopez? Yes, okay, it'll be on the agenda, we'll take a vote on it. Moving right along, ARP 25 Nectarine Avenue. The party. Tell us what you want to do.
I started with a really flashy, fancy design. I just want to slim it down and just three color on the front, keep it simple like the rest of the community. It's gonna look great. It's much cleaner and neater than the area. I had these like contour lines in the initial plan. This is what I do. It's concrete block pavement. Yeah.
Plain concrete block. This is the original, approval. With the gray.
Right, so just instead of doing two different colors, and also we were going into a sign. So losing the sign. And losing the two-tone, just doing one color. The darker of the not Pintos black, but it's like a very dark red.
Trustee Henry, okay for the agenda?
Yes, sir.
Trustee Henry?
Yes, sir.
Trustee Evans? Trustee Lopez? Yes, sir. Okay, thank you. Just stop back and call Tony, he'll,
Go ahead.
you know.
It's going back, okay. I appreciate that.
Have a nice evening. You're saying?
Sounds cool, thank you.
Continue to review of the, to the draft home rule law.
That's fine. Looking at the law on that allows all residents of the state of New York. Just in that, we could just do a local law without home.
Really?
You have specific change differences. How they do like that.
Can you get us that so we can look at it? Or is it just, you can get us a copy? To see which one we want to do?
Well,
It's just this, but
what I drafted
we are listing all the titles, it's everybody.
rather than specify.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Would be a local by local law, would be so that engaged by the village, provided they live in the state. People a lot of flexibility. I was concerned that doing this elsewhere in the state, they said, well, but we're not going to do that. And Greenberg blasted it, and we got in trouble. But that's already set the precedent. The village. So you don't need to do it. Find the same criteria.
So maybe put it on slide.
what's the thought process from, I guess, the state perspective on having home rule? What is their thought process behind? What is the reasoning or rationale for its existence?
Well, in this particular instance, you're potentially changing state law.
Correct. But what I'm trying to figure out here is, we're trying to change it. Why does it exist?
You know, I'm not quite sure. You know, the original law is that all the county officials live in the municipality. Not practical. Not necessary. You know, in larger communities upstate, I guess, they don't have people to serve, so they expanded it. It's been done all over the state. I'm not quite sure what the very factors was that made the state adopt that legislation, but you know, not overturned, but it's been amended, such as I'm suggesting, probably would be.
What I would be curious about, because I think it doesn't problem, for lack of a better word, right? In terms of finding highly qualified individuals for particular roles. What I wonder is, do we actually know the reason? Right? We're jumping to the conclusion that it has to do with geography. For all of these other municipalities who made these amendments in terms of expanding, did they actually determine through some cause that that was the reason why they were having trouble with recruitment? Did they go through their application process, their posting process, their wording of it? See what I'm saying? Like, we're assuming that the reason why we can't attract said candidates is because the pool is too small, but we don't know that.
I don't think my answer to that would be what's the difference?
Well, the difference,
You're going to change the law.
well, the difference, we may end up changing a law that is a big problem.
No, I don't know. I'm not aware of anybody not getting a job. That's what I'm on contact. Person who doesn't live in the county, the village code, I think says the village or the county. To just correct that in her case. But while we're at it, why limit the pool of potential use? I don't know for a fact that any other communities have, if they've gone from municipal home rule, the law will say, you know, to have a better source of candidates, we've done this.
Right,
You don't have to do that.
right, but my thing is, there has to, if there's a problem and we're attempting to fix that problem, we have to actually diagnose the reason of the problem. We're making an assumption that this is going to fix that problem. I don't know that.
It's an outstanding. Particular.
Well, see, now we're talking about two different things, right? Like, what is the thing we're actually trying to solve? We're trying to fix that in particular problem, or the larger overall issue of recruitment.
I think we started out trying to fix that person. And decided while we're at it, we have to get legislation for do our own local law. Might as well open it up. And then, you know, if you don't have a problem going forward, it's not an issue. You haven't. You're not compelled to take somebody that was all first.
To go a step further, this is extremely timely. So I'm a member of a group called Expo, which is a big business organization in Westchester County.
Seen you on News 12.
Mr.
You look great on camera.
Mr. Weinberg, his soul is the one who founded that 50-some years ago. And it's a fantastic group. This, I don't know if it was this Friday or whatever, they asked one of the other administrators who's involved in this, if they would speak to municipal retention of employees, recruitment of employees, and really the topic is in general, everyone. And because it's being experienced that people aren't finding people. and especially here in Westchester County, that is the most educated county in New York State. So they had asked, so actually he sent out an email to a bunch of us saying, are we experiencing anything, and blah, 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 and we basically all kind of said the same thing for some of the top positions, yeah, we can't find people. The topic, one of the examples that came up is the deputy treasurer that everybody's looking for that nobody can find. But then at the same time, we got, and I'm trying to, one of the subjects of NICOM, one of the conferences coming up on NICOM is this exact subject statewide. Because all municipalities are starting to feel it under the restriction of the first one that comes to place is if there's a residency restriction. That it's limiting the talent pool. So that is our exact issue here. So I'm bringing it up because it was so timely. And then NICOM is having a focus on that exact conversation as well as the expo group. So I think it's something that, we know why we got involved in it. That really wasn't that, but it's turning into that to some extent. So I think it's a double-edged sword of, it's probably good to do.
Yeah,
And to your point, you may be right, it doesn't necessarily eradicate all issues, but, it's a step.
it is a step. I just don't, in my mind, I want to make sure that we're actually getting to the root cause of a talent pool.
Now,
issue.
what this doesn't address is judge issue sometime in the future. Two totally different issues.
Right.
Two totally different animals.
It's just a point that people have.
Right.
And that's also under the Ford Act.
That is something we can eventually do though.
The judge.
We can request it.
Because when I spoke to the chief judge, when she had called to tell us that the last one was being kicked out and all that stuff, and when we were looking for a long time, she said that to me. She said, you can request to go into the town or the county or even further, to get the judge. She said it's very common in small communities upstate that don't have enough people to do that. And, she said, so it's not uncommon.
And even though being an attorney is not a requirement to be a justice, it's my opinion, you really should be. But I think the defense attorney can run rings around someone who really doesn't have that kind of training.
And we also talked about the bail reform, how complicated it is. I mean, attorney to understand it, we always say that they have to translate for us.
Like to continue along this, along my valley, I would prepare a local law.
If we decide to do that, the local laws are easier.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a lot easier than doing
Oh,
yeah, I mean,
the other one
it'll
will
take
take
years.
months, at least months.
Well, yeah, I mean, session ends tomorrow, right? So I mean, they won't even talk about it until next. Right, yeah, so you even have to. Well, I mean, look at the hotel tax. It failed the first time, went through the whole thing on hold, and the government said no. And the second time, changed the minds. On consensus, do you want to read this, or do you want to go to the new one, or the damn thing with the state law? I want to write it down, just bring it back to us and we'll look at it. So we'll just hold this one in our packets too, and then just send us, bring us in the local law, we'll review both and see which one. Right? Thanks for the update on that. It's interesting.
Well, that's a good find because.
Yeah.
I
I
think
mean,
a lot of
if we're gonna use it, yeah.
waste of time, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
IT guy, update us on the radio splits?
Okay, so there's been a lot of improvement since the last time, the couple times we've talked. Just to kind of recapture everything, If everyone remembers, back last year, November, December area, we started experiencing some issues with the radio system. We engaged two companies and gave proposals to fix the issues that each company found. We selected Goosetown to take care of the remediation of some of those issues. Right after that point in time, we started having some critical failures where we had radio outages constantly. That was secondary, everyone calls, to the original problem. We had engaged ESS to evaluate what was going on. It was then determined that we were having some microwave issues. The way our system is, think of our system as a complete ring. We started at headquarters, we go up to the high school, the tank, Avalon, and back. So it's a big circle, right? And data and information travels around that. And what was happening was the leg between the high school and Avalon was going up and down. When it went down, the information dropped. We had no redundancy built into that system. So when a leg went, we lost the entire radio system, which forced us to go to our backup radios, which worked. Granted, it wasn't, it's a single radio, did not include the entire system, but it did work. They replaced the microwaves and we got the backhaul back, the back network up and running, and it's been stable ever since. So that was the first major repair we did to that. After that was completed, we then brought in and started working with Goosetown on all the other issues that we were having. So as of right now, this is what we've done so far. At the tank, we replaced a duplexer on the FD repeater. At the Avalon, we replaced the police receiver, which was completely down. So the West End wasn't getting any communications or was not receiving any information from any of the cars. We replaced all DC batteries at 3 sites. So each site had battery backups that you would use for your computer. They have components which are prone to failure. The correct way is we set up what's called a DC power plant in each rack. All equipment is DC powered, right? It's direct current. That also gives us the ability to have the system being monitored by Goosetown for a lot of different things, frequency modulation, drops in information. They have access to our entire radio system. So having this kind of thing, they can monitor our power. So if it happens to go on DC power, well, we know we lost AC power, they're going to call me and say, hey, listen, you got the tank down, there's no power, you're on battery backup, right? And instead of these little UPSs, we have 3 or 4 in series car batteries that are powering our radio systems at each site. So that was a major upgrade, which going to help in diagnosing power issues and reliability and longevity when we're out of AC power. So we did that. The voting system, which is basically the main component that monitors what site's going to transmit, what site's going to receive, that was also replaced. What else do we do? So we also replaced the PD microphone desk console radio microphone, which was there since the first radio. So we also replaced that, kept the other one for the backup. We replaced the UHF antenna up at the tank for the fire department. And what we found out was that UHF link handles our paging. So when the fire department or the police department pages the fire department, it's going over our backup link, not our primary link. Shouldn't be that way. It wasn't. So it's supposed to be, it goes over the primary link, and then if it goes down on the backup link, the only way we figured that out was we had, as they were taking the antenna down, we had a fire department call at Wendy's. We got the voice from the dispatcher, but we had no tones. So we figured out that was originally configured back in the day. So that's got to get rectified. In addition, Goosetown found out that all of the microwave frequencies are governed by FCC because it's public safety. The one that's going from Avalon to a high school, it's generic. It's open to the public. So they're in the process of getting that frequency changed. one of the big issues we had was a configuration of the entire network. And like I was telling you before, if you think about each segment as a pipe, you would have data flowing from, let's say, a 6-inch pipe around most of data points. There was one leg that actually went down to an inch. So you went from a 6-inch pipe of data getting all the way into a 1-inch pipe. You were losing data information. You were losing all sorts of stuff because the system was not balanced properly. And that was done in configuration. So that's all been redone, rebalanced. So that's been all taken care of. The last thing that they have to do is there's interruption between the SCADA system communicating and our radio system. Both systems are at the tank. Both systems are on the same neutral, okay? So what they're putting in is they're putting in a filter system that filters the bad power out going into our radio system. So they started doing that on last Friday. They have these two, which I figured a filter would be something tiny. They have these two huge tanks to filter out the power, and they only got 30% filtration. So they have to go back and figure out what other components they need. They're going to come back. All these little things are helping the system along. We're creating a more reliable and robust system. Going down the line, they're going to make some recommendations. One of the things they're recommending is to change the antennas at the tank to a more powerful antenna, which will send more energy out in the environment, which will help with signal. So they're going to propose a couple other things that they're going to recommend us to do. One of the things, and I'll show you that they found, which was not, so a couple things that was not part of it. Part of the quote that they figured out later. One of the major ones at the tank is we had two rack systems, and they were for the entire radio system. And the issue is that they were tied by analog wire. I'll show you what they did to tie the two systems. If you're looking at this, those old analog wires, phone cables, was keeping the tank going. They were not one consistent cable. Instead of putting a regular cable, they put adapters. And if you think about the old days, when you had to share a phone line, you put an adapter on the one line and you plug it. Right, a splitter, exactly. Yeah, so they used a splitter. He basically was working around the system and hit that, and the system was dead. So that was the place. So all in all, we're 95% done. We're ready to go. The commissioner still had the water. We did have one outage. We spoke about that. There was an issue with the microphone, which was rectified right away.
And it was one over the weekend,
Yes.
and that occurs from time to time.
Right, so now we know what the issue is, and that has part to do with the console too, being outdated, so that's something at some point we really need to address. But for the most part, Commissioner,
Yes, so far so good. I'm with it.
Don't even know.
so we're gonna finish up this project, they're gonna make their recommendations. And then we'll go from there with the future holds. But we're in a lot better spot than we were 5 months ago.
Mike,
Yes.
with everything that has been changed, batteries, microwaves, antennas, cables. You mentioned that you're really noticing the difference the way the radio systems work.
Mhm.
Do you think by fixing whatever is remaining or doing whatever they propose, do you think the system will be up and running the way it's supposed to be without losing signal?
Well, I think, so there's two parts to that answer, right? So we've always had issues even before the radio system went in. There was always areas that were dead spots. So the new radio system never really addressed the complete issue of having dead spots. As the commissioner will know, there's certain places in the village that the cars go to, even before they put the radio system in, that had issues, right? So that's a different topic that we need to talk about. We need to have a conversation, get where we're getting to zero, and get everything that we have back to where its standard is, right from where we were day one, when we first got it, it's gonna perform that way. And that's where we're at pretty much right now.
do the filtration system, which will hopefully help, maybe change the antennas will help even more. The next step to this is that we have to do what's called a heat map of the village. And with a heat map of the village, they'll come in and they're gonna survey the village about where the weak spots are. And where the good spots are. And at that point in time, we have to make determinations. Do we need to add an antenna here? Do we need to add something over there? Do we need another receiver over here? Like, what do we need to expand? We're never gonna get it to 100%. I mean, Mount Pleasant's having the same issue, the commissioner, and I had a chief's meeting, pretty much 2 months ago, I think it was, about the same issue. And there's no radio system unless you're gonna spend millions and millions and millions of dollars like county fire control did to have that kind of system. We're gonna get as close to perfect as possible. Will there be some expansion required? I'm sure there will. But now that we have a system that's gonna be working properly, we can we did the heat map before all of this, so we know the first. We're to see what the after effect is and see where the improvement area is. Then after that, we can determine the west end is very light on communication, or the east, we'll have a better idea village wise. And then it becomes a question of where can we put an antenna? Where can we put, another rack system that has a receiver, a transmitter? Is it a private building? So there's a lot of other questions that we're gonna go through. But it's gonna get, at some point, we're gonna get to find out what those real issues are. Right, and then the other issues are, is it affordable? Is it user error? So there's a lot of other different components. But to answer your question, expanding it will help. We just got to figure out how to do it the right way and not just say, okay, we're going to put in 10 here just because we think it's going to be better. So that information we'll start working on once everything is completed and everything is settled down, and we'll start making increments of improving the system. The next thing for me is the redundancy that I'll be working with Newstown on and how we're going to keep the system redundant.
Lastly, I just want to say thank you. I know you've been in constant contact with myself. And I just want to say thank you. I know you're working hard trying to get the system up and running. And I want to say thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike. Review the June, July, and August. June 19th is the holiday. The 4th is a holiday in July. We usually only do one in July and August. I mean, we don't have that much for June either. What we can do is hold off unless we get something back from the book people, and we can schedule a meeting on them maybe. Yeah, handbook. Oh. And we really don't have that much left for June, as you can see, even this was like meeting, wasn't a lot. So why don't we just go to July, and if we need something, we'll get read back here for June, but if things are ready. Maybe the 10th. Yeah, July 10th, because the 3rd, people might want to take the long weekend. In August. Back to the first week, the 7th, are you okay with that? Okay, then we'll keep you posted if we get on board with something. We check it.
Just quickly, Mike, I had a quick question.
Yes.
Just in the name of public trust and security and all that thing, has there been any consideration in us switching our domain to a .gov domain?
No.
Okay.
What-
Yeah, it's becoming like it started in February, basically, with like the federal government switching all their domains to .gov.
Right.
And it's now like trickled down to a county level. So in my mind, it's like, it's going to get here at some point. So what would that, I guess, entail on our end to do that?
So externally, so what would happen is that we would have to register a new domain name. at that point in time, it really would only affect our email. Right, so our internal domain it's only internal for us, right? It's married to our external domain, which is common. At which point then we would have to create new email aliases. Well, we could do one or two things. First thing is we keep the elmsfordny.org as our primary email. And we create an alias on top of that, elmsfordwhatever.gov. So now you can get mail from both accounts, right? And usually you never get rid of one account for like a year or two, right? Or we flip the script and we create the primary one as the new one. We will have to recreate everybody's emails and then just have the alias for the old one. So it can be done. I can see, I can, check around to see what feasibility is to do the .gov as the primary one and having the elmsfordny.org just as the alias on top of it and see how that would, we would have to reconfigure everybody's Outlook at very minimum. But I can look into that.
That'd be great, thank you.
Yep.
Can we approach the county IT to see how they got that done? Because mine all have changed. All the change was the,
Right, so what happened, so either they did one or two things, they did the alias, right? What they said was that you had your regular county email that you always used to have. And they just added another email account onto it, so if I send it to that email account, it gets routed. All right, and that's the easiest way to do it, right, going forward, is to do that, because that's just putting another account on there on the original account. And then, because I don't think they changed, you probably have access to your old stuff, right? And you're just getting new stuff now from the new domain, right? From the new email account.
Well, they also added the word county in here. It used to be westchester.gov. Now
Right.
it's just a county.
Yeah, so you would see that.
They wanted to show that it was a legitimate site and more of a municipality by saying county in here rather than just Westchester.
Yeah. I mean, we could stage it, right? We do that and just do the alias thing, which is very easy to do, and then look to how to migrate completely away from it. A lot of places, even my old job, we just kept it. Because, after like 10, 15, 20 years, you're never gonna get, you never get everything. And at that
Yeah,
point in time,
It wouldn't be that big of a deal, obviously, we would use, the newer one.
Correct.
If somebody used the older one, I mean, that's fine, I think it's more just about having that level of legitimacy, because we're talking about with AI the way it is, I've seen way too many instances of how quickly people can literally just duplicate your website in seconds now.
We have one out there, right? At least
the
one.
Facebook page, is a
Facebook page,
duplicate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've been trying to fight it for years, right?
Yeah, but I will.
And people say constantly to us, why is it that? I mean, it's not ours, so.
I know that, but it's done it or it's in the process.
Yep.
Motion to adjourn the work session?
Yeah.
You got something?
Not often I ask,
I know, that's why
but
I don't like you.
I came upon something I thought I would share. So, for several months since we hired the firm to help us with the audits, I keep saying that they're working, they're making great progress. We're actually down from trying to identify 70-some thousand to identifying, 700,000 to identifying $12,200. But I had conversation with the lady and I said, could you give me some detail on your invoice of what you're doing? So this is just a month of May. And the last number is the number of hours that she's, putting into each one of these tasks. And basically that task as of May 26th puts us basically at 95% done. So what I really wanted to do is show you work that's involved in this, that You know, I just wasn't saying, yeah, it's a lot of work and remember, there was 2 months before this. So I thought that was interesting that I was able to just cut and paste this and I wanted to share. it.
So like as a 526. We were 95% done. For 2017, correct?
A year ending 18, yeah.
So that 5% that is still out there, not clear enough. How much longer do you think this will take?
Couple of weeks. And then the next step is then that if that whole set of information gets to go over to the auditors, who are then able to finish their actual audit of the books. And that should be a couple of weeks at the most. Then, once those numbers, those final numbers match, well, actually, it's matching those 2-year ending, that's where the problem was with the computer system. The rest of it goes forward a little smoother, and we'll also have to have them do some more of this work as each year progresses, but it'll be quicker, because most of this was spent recreating the year and then making sure that A through Z all match. So it was basically, you were going through a year of every single transaction. You're not gonna have to continue to do that going forward. This lady does good work. Really good work. Not cheap, but very good work. These are one of those advantages you pay for, you get what you pay. That's all I have, thank you.
You're welcome, thank you. Motion to adjourn the work session. All in favor? All those carried? Please.